The tail rotor's whine reached the spectators a heartbeat before the Apache appeared above the tree line, its matte blades flashing in the Suffolk sun like a silent promise of power. On the tarmac below, Prince William stood perfectly still, black shoes planted, visorless beret tucked beneath one epaulette shoulder, yet every pair of watching eyes sensed a contained momentum, as if the man himself were a coiled mainspring newly released into duty. This was not the well-worn heir greeting schoolchildren outside a hospital ward. This was the future king stepping into a role that would bind his name to the roar of engines, the smell of hydraulic oil and the lethal grace of one of Britain's most elite fighting corps. For weeks Kensington Palace had let the world wonder when the Prince of Wales would re-emerge after that discreet span of family time, the hush surrounding the Princess of Wales's convalescence, the unspoken worries about his father's chemotherapy, and the relentless undertow of headlines radiating from Montecito. Yet here he was on the 4th of June, uniform pressed to knife-edge precision, greeting pilots at Wattisham Airfield with a professional handshake that belied the significance of the moment. According to palace insiders, William prepared for this visit with the same mix of discipline and reverence he once brought to dawn briefings at RAF Valley, early fitness drills, hours poring over squadron reports, late-night phone calls to senior brass who had flown combat sorties before he learned to drive. He wants to feel the pulse of the regiment, not just wave at it, one colonel confided. That authenticity matters when you're about to carry a nameplate his father guarded for 3 decades. The formal handover had taken place in private 3 weeks earlier at Middle Wallop, the Army Aviation Centre where rows of camouflaged helicopters rot inside cavernous hangars and the air smells of avgas and ambition. King Charles, gaunt but still unmistakably regal in a field jacket, presented his son with a slim folder embossed with the Army Air Corps crest. In less ceremonial times it would have been a simple scroll, now it felt almost sacramental, the monarchy's tacit way of whispering that time moves forward even when chemo drips backward through a cannula. Witnesses say the monarch's voice caught for a fraction of a second when he pronounced the words Colonel-in-Chief. Then William accepted the charge with a nod learned from Sandhurst, brisk, respectful, final. That lineage runs deep. Charles became figurehead of the Army's aviators 32 years ago, back when Apaches were still a Washington dream and a younger prince's most pressing worry was whether the Gulf War might tarnish public appetite for military patronage. In those decades he logged hundreds of visits, learned the first names of doorgunners' children, and once, during a snowbound Christmas inspection in Yorkshire, ordered steaming containers of mulled wine to the night refueling point, a gesture still retold among veteran crew chiefs. Passing the torch to William is more than administrative choreography. It is the monarchy's bloodstream renewing itself, artery by artery, while letting the public witness each transfusion. And the public was watching. Kensington Palace released 5 photographs within hours, William leaning into an Apache cockpit, forearm braced on the rim, listening to a pilot's rapid-fire walkthrough of targeting systems, William laughing with ground crew whose camouflage trousers bore streaks of grease, William striding past a wildcat with wind whipping his tie against his belt buckle. Each image seemed calibrated to remind Britain that the air has flown rescue sorties through Welsh sleet, has smelled the metallic sting of turbine exhaust at dawn, and can still tell a collective pitch lever from a coffee thermos. He's not just playing dress-up, murmured an RAF veteran scrolling through the pictures at a London cafe. You don't rest one hand on an engine cowl like that unless you know it's scalding hot. The visit unfolded in a choreography of purpose. After inspecting the Guard of Honour, William requested a closed-door briefing on the regiment's upcoming deployment cycle, an unusual step for what protocol defines as a purely ceremonial leader. He traced index fingers along laminated maps, cross-examined sortie tempos, and asked whether the latest helmet-mounted sights were easing pilot fatigue during night work over urban terrain. One junior captain, cheeks still flushed from an impromptu demonstration flight, later confided that the prince pressed harder than some mod auditors. The remark spread through the mess hall like caffeine, and by mid-afternoon a subtle thrill ran beneath the regiment's clipped professionalism. Their new patron understood the fine line between pageantry and operational grind. His arrival could not have been timed with sharper contrast. Across the Atlantic, Prince Harry's surname saga was unspooling into yet another volley of op-eds dissecting what it means to stand half in, half out of the House of Windsor. Even normally restrained broadsheets ran side-by-side images, William in field dress blues, Harry in California linen, one brother tightening the braid of tradition, the other loosening it until threads frayed. Sources close to the family insist William bears no personal malice, yet the tension is a living presence, a low hum between pages of the court circular whenever the future king's obligations collide with his siblings' reinventions. On this June morning, that hum sharpened into a dividing line so stark even the flight line's vapor haze could not blur it. Back inside Wattersham's operations room, William paused before a glass case housing the regiment's battle honours. He traced one engraved plaque Afghanistan, Helmand Province, 2010, with a fingertip, remembering friends who came home silent and others who did not come home at all. An officer standing nearby noted the flicker of memory across his face, the fleeting vulnerability that can exist only in men who have worn flight suits, not just admired them. It lasted a heartbeat, then the prince squared his shoulders, returned to the conversation, and asked how frequently cockpit ergonomics are reviewed for female pilots newly entering the Apache stream. Such is the duality that marks William these days, soldier's empathy yoked to statesman's oversight. Meanwhile, Buckingham Palace aides monitored social feeds pinging across smartphones in starchy pockets. Relief pulsed through the comms team as hashtags trended for the right reasons, #Prince William returns, #Army Air Corps, #Future King on duty, rather than the litany of health rumors and rift narratives that had dominated springtime gossip. For those aides, each favorable headline was an intravenous shot of steadiness, proof that the Crown can still set the news agenda when it chooses the right moment and the right stage. The Apache demonstration flight scheduled, whispered one pilot, partly for morale and partly to give the boss an itch to climb in, unfolded with cinematic timing. The helicopter thundered overhead in a fast rope ingress simulation, dust devils swirling around the prince's polished shoes. William shielded his eyes, grinned like the 20-something search and rescue pilot he once was, and exchanged a thumbs-up with the crew chief dangling on the winch line. In that grin observers glimpsed the monarchy's most persuasive asset, the ability to fuse duty with genuine delight, to look not burdened but invigorated by service. It is the quality courtiers pray will eclipse every paparazzi shot of disgruntled in-laws leaving Santa Barbara restaurants. But the day's symbolism was not solely martial. By entrusting this corps to his son, Charles signal-boosted a quieter storyline. The king's own fight with cancer has entered a grueling maintenance phase, yet he remains determined to pilot the broader institution through turbulence, to keep the pages of the red boxes turning even if his hand trembles. Passing army aviators to William both lightens his load and ensures that one of the Crown's closest links to frontline troops stays unbroken. The gesture whispers continuity to commanders who measure trust not in speeches but in calendar years of patronage. One brigadier, paused beside a catering truck serving tea, murmured to a colleague, "You don't hand over 32 years of history unless you're confident the receiver won't drop it." That confidence is not blind. William's own military resume may glimmer with RAF wings, yet he will need to master the intricacies of rotary wing tactics, procurement bottlenecks, even the politics of joint support with Royal Navy Fleet Air Arm squadrons. His science-minded, adaptable, noted a defense analyst after studying footage of the visit. But the Army Air Corps is an unforgiving world, low-level flight, quick-change tech upgrades, budgets permanently under siege. It's baptism by turbine wash. Palace sources hint the prince has already cleared space in next quarter's diary for follow-up sessions with engineers at Yeovilton and ethics briefings on unmanned reconnaissance development. Such planning underscores the seriousness with which he accepts that a ceremonial title, in this century, comes stapled to real scrutiny. Not all observers cheered. In London wine bars critics muttered about hereditary privilege, that a collar of rank should be earned by sorties, not lineage. Yet even some cynics conceded the man wears the role credibly, owing to his own years at the controls of a sea king braving Welsh winter seas. At least, sighed one commentator on a popular podcast, he understands what a torque meter warning light means. Outside the hangars, as the last photo op shutter clicked, William found himself beside a 6-year-old boy in miniature fatigues, a pilot's son whose wide eyes had trailed him all afternoon. The prince bent to ask the child's name, then pointed skywards toward the departing Wildcat. Cameras captured the simple exchange, fingertip tracing an invisible arc across cloud-spackled blue, the boy mirroring the gesture seconds later. It lasted no more than 30 seconds, yet PR veterans know such vignettes often outlive policy documents. It is the monarchy in soft focus, lineage expressed not in Latin mottos but in one adult reassuring a child that the sky is within reach. The briefing concluded, William climbed into the back seat of a waiting Land Rover. Through tinted glass he watched the dispersal of personnel, the lowering of a regimental ensign, the measured choreography of a base returning to operational rhythm after the royal whirlwind. The vehicle rolled past a row of parked Apaches. One tail rotor blade was stenciled with the names of fallen comrades. He raised 2 fingers in casual salute, unseen by anyone but the watchman at the gate. As dusk pooled across the East Anglian fields, the wider significance of the day crystallized. A kingdom grappling with illness at its apex, with discord among its princes, and with the perpetual question of relevance had been offered an unmistakable tableau of continuity. The torch had not merely been passed, it had been tested, relit, and brandished in front of the cameras. William's shoulders, already broad from the weight of expectation, now carry the roar of rotor blades and the unspoken promise that he will know exactly when those blades must turn in anger. In the weeks ahead he will stand on the balcony for Trooping the Color, his father beside him, his wife perhaps still pacing recovery's measured path behind palace curtains. He will read briefing papers on Apache fleet sustainment, listen to whispered updates on cancer markers, scan newspapers for fresh interpretations of a brother's Californian rebrand. Through it all the memory of Wattersham's sunstruck tarmac will linger, the feel of riveted metal beneath his palm, the grin that outran protocol, the sudden certainty that some duties are not inherited so much as earned in the moment a nation decides to believe. Whether the country clings to that belief will depend on countless future gestures, some as public as a coronation oath, others as private as a letter dashed off to the widow of a fallen pilot. But for one crystalline afternoon in June, the equation felt simple. The crown endured because it adapted because fathers yielded to sons, and sons proved worthy by stepping unflinchingly into the rotor wash and letting the noise of service drown every other question. And somewhere beyond the perimeter fence, unseen by rotor or camera flash, a lone skylark spiraled upward, its call barely audible over the fading chop of blades, yet insistent, bright, impossibly steady.